Hello, everyone. Well, tonight I'm going to talk to you about emotional dysregulation, in particular, um, how trauma can induce emotional dysregulation. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that you can have something happen to you um, growing up and have real issues with trying to get your emotions in check. When you're a kid and you live in your home with your primary caretakers, with your mother, your father, could be an aunt or uncle, whoever's taking care of you. When you're a child and you experience some type of trauma, what's going to happen is that your body and your mind is going to have problems with that, right? Because the number one problem is going to be how do I deal with, how do I cope with this emotional pain? That's one of the first things that's going to come up for you. And the pain is how do I deal with being rejected, right? How do I deal with that? How do I deal with not being loved? That's a big problem. And you can show that lack of love as a parent easily by not being, not paying attention. Okay. If you don't pay attention, then that's just like saying, I don't love you. You can also not show love by withholding something. Okay. You can withhold attention, affection. You can withhold yourself as a parent. You could allow your toys to be your primary caregiver. So your iPad, your phones, your devices, video games. And that can create a lot of emotional pain for a child, although they won't be able to articulate it. It will do that because what the child they need something you're not giving them, and that's emotional connection. Okay. Emotional connection. They have to have that. And when you withhold that, that's a problem. So keep that in mind. Okay. And also, when you withhold love, you basically harm the child. You rob them of that emotional regulation piece. Okay. Well, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because they need you as the adult to regulate them. They need you as an adult to regulate them. And so when they don't have that, it causes a rejection piece and it causes you to withhold real love. And that's something they need, that emotional regulation piece, which results in guess what? Anger. Anger. And I'll also put rage down there. Rage. Anger and rage are not the same. Anger, you just get upset and you might pout and cry. Rage is when you black out. Okay. That's a whole different story there. So blackout. And you could kind of look at being blackout, raging, blackout, blacked out, raging episodes to say alcoholism when you get drunk and you get blackout drunk. You don't know what you've done. You don't know where you are. You don't know anything. Well, that's the same type of iteration for being raged when you have that scenario happen. So you can go into that. You can also have real trauma dealing with other things that go on in your body. This trauma can be caused or can cause other types of wounds in your body, in your spirit, right? And these wounds can look like diseases, right? It can look like diseases. How is that possible? Well, it is. And so the disorders that can come, right, are many. And one of them is arthritis. Yeah, arthritis. The other one is asthma. The other one is you can develop ADHD. ADHD. And other disorders, right? Certain other disorders like could be schizophrenia, because you can get that. So your schizoaffective disorders, they can come that way. Also, you have other issues that come up, and so you have to be careful how you work with someone and how you traumatize someone. You can also have an issue where you're developmentally delayed. When you developmentally delayed, that can be a problem. It can come from this dysregulation piece. And that comes from the emotional trauma, right? Physical traumas, emotional traumas, sexual traumas. All of these things play a part in this, right? In this symptomatology. So you've got that going on with you. Now, you can be emotionally dysregulated. And that's when you see kids or adults um, and acting out. I call it acting like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old. You know, you find out that happens when the child doesn't get what they need. You know, they don't get what they need. And so the body is not able to regulate itself, right? So you'll find that they'll have the anger and the rage, and they might develop other symptoms, right? Is because they're not being cared for in a way that's meaningful to them. They get a lot of things from us, right? A lot of things that they need. They learn from us. So if you have a child and you just have them in the room and you're not talking to them, you're not engaging them, they're just there, you see. Well, they're not just there, they're learning all the time, right? But they learn in ways that you may not realize. They pick up everything that's going on in their environment. So, what happens when you're a rageaholic around them? Well, then they become that, right? They pick that up and they start doing what you do. They learn, right? When they're rejected, when they're not cared for, when they don't feel connection. Okay, all these things seek to really destroy the child. It destroys the child, so the child's not able to regulate the emotions. So you're going to have a symptom where a child's crying all the time when they grow up, and you're like, why are you so sensitive? Why are you crying so much? Well, they're crying so much because they didn't get the security that they needed. Okay. It's not their fault. It's your fault, right? It's your fault. They didn't get the love and the connection they needed. Or maybe you passed the child around, you didn't have time to take care of them, didn't have, you know, whatever it is that you thought you needed to take care of the child. You passed them from person to person. Well, they may or may not get what they need from that individual or those individuals. They don't have a sense of self, a sense of security, and they become an emotional mess. See? And so all of that plays a part in this. They might develop some type of psychiatric issues also because their needs are not being met. It's easy to shove a toy in their face or shove an instrument like a phone or something electronic, but that's not what they need. They need you. They need your face in their face. They need to have contact with you, physical touch. That's what they need. They need to have physical touch. And when they don't get it, it creates problems, neurological issues with them, and other issues, right? Maybe they have a fear of people because of that. That can happen where they don't trust other people. They're not able to make connections with people, right? Emotional connections. They're not able to be around other people, right? Well, that comes from this same business here. Mm-hmm. It comes from the same business here. So when you're not able to do that, connect with somebody, uh, i.e., your child, the child won't be able to connect emotionally with other people. So that they might develop uh, and become a loner, right? They just rather be left in their room or something like that. Well, that could come from them being left in their room throughout their life, right? And you might just let them cry and all that. Well, that's a problem because the child realizes that their crying don't produce any type of response from you. The cry is to help that they need something, right? And it's up to the adult to figure out what that is and to provide it. And so when that doesn't happen, that creates a problem for the child. So that's yet another traumatic event. So we don't want those things. What we want to do is provide the comfort, security to the child. They need that. They have to have it, right? They have to have the physical contact. And the physical contact is so important, you all. It's so extremely important. They have to have the contact, they have to have that emotions regulated. And so touch is super, super important to the child. Okay. They have to have that. They have to have the eye contact. They have to have that. Um, they have to be able to look at your face and see you, really see you. Okay. And they examine your face and they examine your response to things. Um, all of these things matter, right? The way you talk and your intonation and all of that. These children are learning everything about life. You're programming them, right? And so when they're left to fend for themselves. There's a lot of things that they're not getting. Okay, they're gaps. So you don't want to do that. You want to be able to make sure you take care of everything about your child, right? And so that's the important thing here, right? And so just make sure that you don't traumatize the child. Just being born is traumatic enough, okay? The separation between the mother and the child from the wound is it's first trauma, but everybody goes through that. But you want to minimize these things, and you want to minimize them so that the child can grow up and be very strong spiritually, be secure in who they are and who they are in relation to you, so that they will have confidence, right? And so that's super important. Last thing I want to mention is now on a spiritual note, when the child isn't given what they need, um, their growth is stunted, but there's more to it than that. Say if you injure the child in some type of way. And I'm not talking about a physical injury. I'm talking about something emotional, something, God forbid, sexual. Um, then what's going to happen is you're going to stunt their growth, right? Their emotional growth, right? Sometimes their physical growth gets stunted, right? And also, they won't be able to um, thrive. Yeah, they won't be able to thrive. There's something called failure to thrive. And you don't want that to ever happen to your child. When you're not around, pay attention to what's going on with your child, and things happen, then all of a sudden you have a disruption, right? You have a disruption. So the child is able to or not able to um, regulate or emote. They can't tell you what's happened because they're not able to process it, right? They're not able to process it, especially a sexual trauma. And then all of a sudden, you've got another big issue, right? The child's set back emotionally. The child can't do certain things because they have this other thing to deal with that they're not supposed to deal with, right? And so there's a big deal there that can affect them for the rest of their lives. Most times it does, okay? So when your child is acting odd, and maybe they're not talking, or maybe they're crying a lot, or just acting off, pay attention to that. Pay attention. If they're acting out in a negative way, pay attention to that. Okay. They're just not being bad, right? There's something going on with them, something they can't talk about. Why can't they talk about it? Well, it's because we know clinically, right? And there's been studies done on this that show that if a child is sexually abused, at an early age, or even as a teenager in a lot of respects, that child, A, will probably not remember that because I'll block it out. And B, they won't be able to talk about it. If they do remember it, they will literally not be able to say what happened to them. And that's just a cognitive function. Something so traumatic, it causes that memory to shut off, or it causes that memory to be suppressed, or they can think of what had happened, but they can't say it. That's a function of the mind. And so not being able to talk about it means that it gets suppressed, right? And, it'll come up later in the child acting out in some type of way. Maybe the child becomes hypersexual. Maybe the child becomes very aggressive, is very angry. Maybe they're drawing pictures that are disturbing. It's going to come out. So pay attention to your child and look for any mood shifts, any shifts in the personality, because all of that means something, right? It's not nothing. So hopefully this helped you all. But just keep in mind that traumatic injuries can stunt a child spiritually, lastly. And that is a way that the enemy or the satanic forces, if you will, can take your child hostage, right? And that's a whole nother podcast. So just keep in mind these things do happen. They can happen. We pray that they don't happen, but guard your children. Don't just leave them with a stranger or someone you don't know or don't trust, or any of that uh, situation, because children are vulnerable and you don't want something to happen to them. Okay, you won't be able to take it back. Let me repeat that. You won't be able to take it back if something happens to your child. So keep that in mind. It's a real thing, and it's something that you gotta really watch out for, right? Because this child is going to, if they get hurt somehow, they're gonna have to suffer for a lifetime. It does not go away. The problems don't go away in relation to these traumatic injuries. They just don't. And your child will have a lifetime of suffering and regret. So I hope that helped you all. And if you need anything, you can go to my website and we can book a session. I'll put the link in the description. Y'all be blessed.